the lifting of coronavirus restrictions, with the president expected to address the country on Sunday. They accuse the president of being motivated by his need for re-election than the health of citizens.
Evidently, President Nana Addo Dankwa seemed more interested in his re-election bid and consolidating his hold on power than protecting the lives of Ghanaians and ensuring the safety and security of our citizens even as we labor under the COVID threat.
We'll scrutinize the minorities' claims and hear from the government scientists looking at the data that they believe really may influence whatever decision the president announces to the nation on Sunday.
This is Top Story with Mensah.
And Top Stories is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion, is also brought to you by Gas and Cement, the Nation Build, and Vodafone. The future is exciting, ready. There is another political tussle over the science and the data informing the decisions around the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, the press briefing, the government scientists and the Ghana Health Service detailed a more what they believe to be the real data, backing their conclusion that Ghana reached its peak when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic on the 25th of April. And they today emphasize that since that day, our cases have consistently been on the decline, showing the success in winning the war against the coronavirus itself as far as Ghana is concerned. While the minority is disputing those claims, they say that is part of a plot to justify a further lifting of the remaining restrictions put in place to help deal with the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the minority insists that the president's anticipated national address will then use the ground that has been prepared on the back of all the positive assertions being made about how government and Ghana is doing so well in the fight against the coronavirus, so then put in place and lift the restrictions. Harun Idrisu, who is a minority leader, has been speaking at a news conference. He says the president's motivation is not to save lives, but something else. Listen.
As a minority, the sharp rise in the number of cases reported by authorities in the last 2 weeks is deeply worrying, and therefore the attempt to downplay this fact is unacceptable to us in the exercise of our oversight. If you could lock down when the numbers were less than 300, and then when you have numbers up to 3,000, you certainly must be in a dilemma. And I don't admire the dilemma and quagmire of President Nana Addo Dankwa and his team, which is fighting the menace. I refer to a recent statement by a member of the National Response Team that we have picked in terms of the number of infected persons. Misuse of side terms without empirical basis appear to be designed to fit into a certain narrative ahead of the president's next broadcast. It appears to be part of a strategy to create an atmosphere of normalcy in the lead to the next presidential broadcast. And as far as the reason, your guess is as good as ours. Evidently, President Nana Addo Dankwa seemed more interested in his re-election bid and consolidating his hold on power than protecting the lives of Ghanaians and ensuring the safety and security of our citizens even as we labor under the COVID threat. Many professionals have observed that the data being published by the Ghana Health Service does not lend itself to meaningful analysis in the form it is presented.
So that is the Harun Idrisu, who is a minority leader. You heard him refer to the assertion that was made by the Ghana Health Service Director General earlier on Tuesday that Ghana had reached its peak. And he questions that particular assertion and the data and science that backs it, and leads to the conclusion he believes that evidently, quoting him, President Akufo-Addo seems more interested in his re-election than the safety, and that his forthcoming address may be a basis then to refer to these positive assertions about the peak and a subsequent consistent decline in infections and use that to justify the lifting of the remaining restrictions that we have on gatherings. Well, referring to that today, the Director General of the Ghana Health Service was back today at the briefing with further evidence, and you've heard Aaron Adrusu question the evidence. He came today with further evidence, a graphical representation showing the plotting of the actual days in the last 1 month or so, and how many cases as a country we were recording when it came to the coronavirus. And he said that is what leads them to make that conclusion that we've reached our peak and we've been on a systematic decline since then. Listen to the evidence he put forward today.
We peaked around the 27th of April this year, and since then the numbers have continued to come down till the last presented as of yesterday. So that's showing that of the positivity since the peaking on the 27th of April, we have consistently recorded a decline until today, and we hope that will continue to be the case, so that we'll be able to name it, this cases, bring it under control, not actually control it. As I raised in my last press briefing, COVID is still not equivalent to death as people have perceived it. We want to encourage everybody to continue applying the protocols that we have done. We are also coming up with protocols that will guide people as to, if you are a hairdresser, if you are a barber, what exactly should you do to protect yourself. We know that it's not as simple, so we have protocols which will be out, as we mentioned last time, and share with the various groups. We already started engaging them.
On the 10th of March, the results came on the 12th. That's not shown here because you are not showing when we had the results. You are showing the first 2 cases, sample taken 10th of March, and they became positive. So the build-up till getting to the end of April, and then we have been coming down gradually. That is what we meant. This is not saying that Ghana is off the hook yet. The off are not over, and the woes are not off. To sustain this and further come down, we need to adhere to all the various preventive etiquette that have been spelled out quite a number of times here. So, Honorable Minister, this is the situation that we have for a number of case bills with respect to the confirmed cases that we have in Ghana.
So that is the Director General of the Ghana Health Service there today at the Meet the Press on the briefing on the coronavirus updates, detailing what the evidence is. The minority clearly is challenging that. We're going to be speaking to them on what they believe is the situation. The minority is also demanding an account or an accounting, an audit into the money spent so far in the fight against the coronavirus. We'll bring you your thoughts on that very shortly. But I want to bring in right now the minority Chief Whip, who joins us on the telephone line right now, who is Muntaka Mubarak. Mr. Mubarak, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Good evening to you, Evans, and your listeners.
You say today at the press conference, quote, evidently, President Akufo-Addo seems more interested in his re-election than in the safety and life of Ghanaians. What's the basis for this conclusion?
I mean, Evans, if you have observed all the utterances and the press conferences, the data presented and all the things that have been done so far, you hear self-appraiser. They tout themselves, they tout that, oh, Ghana is doing best within the African continent. I mean, the president is managing this in the best of forms and the ways. But Evans, if you equally have been listening to other countries' daily updates, and the things that they look up and tell their people the facts that they give, the details of the facts, and tell them how they are able to do it, especially those in the Far East, the South Korea, the Hong Kong, the Singapore, and the others who have been able to manage this very successfully. If you look at the measures that they took, you will see clearly we are nowhere near getting over the problem. So, I mean, the impression being created is a danger because, you see, people say, oh, why are you trying to do this? You are trying to do politics. Believe me, we are not doing politics. We are minority, and you know over the years, Parliament's oversight responsibility has been left for the minority to carry because Parliament as an institution should be the one doing what we are doing, but they are not doing it, and it has always been left to the minority.
This is important. We're not on a point of whether or not the government is simply blowing its horn without a basis. There are real facts that support that claim that government is pointing at. So, if you come to the continent, let's move to testing. Apart from South Africa, in terms of real numbers of tests done, we are only second to South Africa. If we come to the mortality rate, the fact is that we are one of the lowest mortality rates when it comes to coronavirus anywhere in the world. One off. If you look at the positivity rate, same. So if you look at these facts, I mean these are facts. That is what supports the government conclusion.
Listen to me. I mean, Evans, let me just refer you to my son. They went to school, their zone. They were last. I mean, they couldn't proceed to the next group. And I met them and said, why? He said, we were last, but we were the best losers. We were the best losers. You don't compare yourself with other African countries who cannot even access part of their country.
No, I'm talking about South Africa. Are you saying that we can't compare to South Africa?
Yeah, I'm saying South Africa, the South Africa that you are
talking
about. You yourself, you are saying that except South Africa. That's what you yourself said.
I'm talking about testing. But if you look at mortality rate, we are doing far better in mortality rate than countries like UK, like the US. Positivity rate as well.
Are you sure we are really able to?
No, this is not about being sure. This is about looking at what the data says.
Listen to me. There are cases in our hospital. People died before they tested and know.
Yeah, but so what is the data to back that? It is not anecdotal. We're not talking about anecdotal numbers. We're talking about real hard figures.
You don't have very efficient testing system. When people are in the rural area and they are dying of corona, you not even be able to know.
No, it's not maybe. We're talking about facts.
If you don't want to listen to me, then let me go off. Because if you want us to have a very useful day, let's listen to each other. And I'm telling you that find out from the facilities, even Kumasi, before they take the sample, before you get the test, 12 days, 14 days, before you get to know the results of the test. You call this testing? Evans, let me tell you, you don't sit in the hospital and people come and then you do contact tracing and you say that you are dealing with COVID. Everywhere they have dealt with COVID, they go into the community, especially the moment you start recording community spread.
But government is doing enhanced contact tracing in the community.
You are in Accra. Greater Accra. Accra alone has over 2,000. Has Joy FM staff, all of you, been tested?
Well,
some method will have been all parliamentarians, all the staff in parliament.
Some of my colleagues, samples have been taken and tested. This was random.
It is not supposed to be some. You have to identify groupings and be able to take all the groupings. So, for example, Parliament and its staff, we are about 1,000. You do everything in Parliament. You do everything around the Jubilee House, the judiciary. Then you let the ordinary citizen have confidence that, even the Parliament, the judiciary, the executives have all been tested. So if they are going to Makwala for the people to be tested, they will understand. Because all those countries, they have been able to overcome it. They even test people on the street. You are in your car, they stop you, and they do rapid testing. But if you don't do testing, and you are just touting yourself, you pick with what?
Mr. Mubarak, when it comes to testing, again, the facts and the data as they put forward, we're doing. We are testing. Just a second. We are testing. I'm coming. I'm just referring to the facts as our Ghana Health Service, the doctors that we've entrusted and employed to work, Noguchi, etc. What they put forward is all we have, and that's what we can work with. They've told that. If I may ask the question, Mr. Mubarak, my question is referring to the fact, and it's important that even if you look at the enhanced contact tracing and the number of cases that we are seeing, majority of the positives we are getting is from those we are finding in the communities, and not necessarily those who are showing up at the hospitals themselves. That shows that there is aggressive, proactive, looking for people and testing.
Find out from them. They are persons that have come to hospital, tested positive, and then they go to do contact tracing. They are not going into the community to do testing.
But they are in the community.
My reporters have come and posted positive.
My colleagues
do contact tracing. Check all the countries. That's not what they are doing. All the countries that are able to overcome this, they have zoned their country, they've zoned the community, especially where they are having some cases, and they are doing rapid testing.
Mr. Mubarak, that is exactly what my reporters, in fact, my colleague, head of the health desk, was with the team of contact tracers who had gone into a community to look for people. They zoned parts of the country they call the hotspots and looked for people, to the point that people who ran, they came back, looked for them, isolated them. So that is what is happening.
No. What is happening is that if Evans tests positive, then they find out, Evans was with Muntaka, he was with Haruna, he was with Yakubu, he was with this. Then they go looking for them. And then who else have been in contact with Muntaka? That's what they are doing. And I'm saying that is not enough. Because look, like they themselves said, is it yesterday or the day before yesterday in the update, that people are refusing to not come to hospital because they believe that when they come, they may test positive. They themselves said it. So what we are saying is that you need to devise a method, and that's why the Ghana Medical Association is saying that, look, we need to change our strategy. Because if you are going to go with this strategy, you may think that the disease is over. And that's exactly the impression you are creating to the ordinary citizens of our country that, everything is under control. In actual sense, for those who do not have symptoms, they are fast spreading this in our community.
So you question...
For example, let me give you one example. Before the easing of the lockdown, we didn't have a single case in the Western North region. After the easing, one person that was tested positive, and when they did the contact tracing of 100 people that the person had contact with, 56 tested positive. Check, 56.
Yes.
And you think that their testing method is enough?
So my question is, you doubt the statistics as has been presented.
I'm not saying that the statistics. I'm saying that they are not getting enough numbers to enable them ascertain the true trend of the curve. Because what they are doing, they are just picking a small portion and they are trying to use that. Because with COVID, check New York, check all the big countries, what they are doing. They are not using samples. They are not using samples because the COVID is sad that...
Sorry, when you say they are not using samples, explain.
Yes, they are not using samples. So, for example, they are not coming to say that, they are going to randomly pick 10 people in Kokomilemle, where Joy FM is, and then test them to see what is happening. No, what they are doing is that they are devising method to see if they can test everybody in Kokomilemle, and then it gives them the direction of the spread. And that's what those countries are doing. And I'm telling you that they are not doing that. Because if they were doing that, I bet you in Accra with over 2,000 cases, by now, I sitting here as a member of parliament and all of us in parliament will have been tested. You enjoy it from all of you will have been tested because that's an identified easily group that you can easily go and test and be able to determine how the numbers are within the greater Accra. No, they are not doing that. It is when Evans test positive, then they try to do contact tracing for Evans and all those who have had contact with those ones and then try to isolate them and test. When you do that, what about those?
The thing about what you said is that is what the science says. Even if they do what you're suggesting, which is what I've said, that from the evidence that my reporters have found is happening. If you do those who test positive, you still have to do contact tracing, and you still have to combine all the measures, which is what is happening. For example,
so when they do, for example, in Greater Accra, if I were the Minister for Health or if I were part of the team, and wanting to do a real good job, fine. It's not talking about those who have to travel, you quarantine.
Is this based on science or you are just simply conjecturing based on what you've seen on television?
I'm not conjecturing. I'm telling you what other countries are doing. The countries that are getting out of it, this is what they are doing. That is why you hear New York will tell you that our target is to be able to say if we can test 500,000 a week. We are currently doing maybe 150,000, but we want to be able to get to this. They are mass testing. And I'm saying that in Accra, by now, all the specialized groups, you will have tested. And then if Muntaka tests positive, then you do contact tracing for him. Then you keep on That's what will let you have a real data that you can use, and that will tell you the real curve. But if you sit and then you take only those who have fallen sick and you do contact tracing for them, I'm telling you, you are only targeting portions of the problem.
Well, Mr. Mubarak, the thing about this conversation is that it's about the science and the experts. Of course, all of us will have.
That is why you
will have opinions about this.
So, public health experts saying that the method that is being used is not adequate. Let's
go to an area. Let's go to an area that you put forward that I guess both of us can speak to, which is you believe that there should be an audit into, and this was part of the press conference, into the money spent, and you were actually worried about the pronouncement made by the health minister yesterday that they found that some people may be reselling the government procured PPEs in addition to hoarding that, and you want an audit. And in fact, I heard your leader say that if you need that audit so that you're going to follow that very closely. Why is that important at this time in the middle of the crisis?
No, it's important because if the health facilities are calling for PPEs, the minister says that we've provided adequate, and you are reselling it. We say that, look, provide the data. So you brought, say, example, 1 million sets of PPEs. So maybe sanitizer and other things, maybe a set, 1 million. And that 1 million, you sent maybe 200,000 to Asante region. And in the one in Asante region, maybe 100 went to Mensah District Hospital, Tafo, and other. You do those distribution. Let us all see it. Then when you have shown the distribution, then we will now be able to question, for example, the Western North Regional Director saying that we have run short of PPE. Then we'll ask, no, you were given 50,000. How did you, the 50,000, you distributed it in this form. How have you used it and you are saying it's finished? That's when we'll be able to determine who have sold or who is stealing to resell their PPEs. And you see, at the time that the health workers are virtually risking their lives, I think the least that we expect from the Minister for Health is to demoralize them by trying to tag that some of them are stealing this. If you know somebody who has stolen a PPE kit, your simple thing is to arrest and get the person prosecuted. Because people who have simple gathering that have flouted the restriction of gathering, you've gotten some arrested and some prosecuted. If you know anybody, whether director at the facility or at the regional level or a staff or a nurse, that's why the BNI is at your disposal, the necessity is at your disposal, the police, all the security agencies are at your disposal. You don't just come at the national forum and just make a pronouncement that they are stealing and reselling the PPEs. When you do that, when people are risking their lives, you get them demoralized. Because then now, who is the thief? Who is the thief? So if you know the thief, just get the thief and arrest the person. Maybe that, if it is true, if you arrest one or two and prosecute, that will serve as a deterrent for maybe others who may be stealing it. And for now, you refuse to tell us how many you have distributed, how you've distributed it, and you are claiming that they are saying that it's in short supply. You are saying that they are stealing and reselling.
You also
demanding that make how much did you buy? How many of them did you receive as donation? How do you distribute them? So that we'll all be able to follow through.
You also believe, Mr. Mubarak, that somehow there's a plot to lift the remaining restrictions. Is it that you know something that we all don't know? What is leading to this fear?
Evans, I mean, coming events cast their shadow. You could see the preparation to tell you that, oh, we're flattening, we are now going down, things are under control. We are really doing the very best. In fact, in the whole of Africa, we are the best in terms of managing this. We are being touted. When in actual sense, you know WHO is cautioning Ghana for any lifting of the restriction. They think that a lot of the measures that we are putting are not really adequate. The WHO has told the whole world that the whole of African continent is not testing enough. I mean, these are reports by WHO, assessment of the African continent, that look, they are not testing enough. When you prepare this, look at the reflection in our market. That is why when you go to our market, people are not observing the social distance. A lot of people are not observing most of the protocol because the utterances of our leaders and the communication that they give suggests to the ordinary person that, oh, Ghana is dealing with this. Ghana is perfectly managing this. Oh, so, I mean, things will soon get to normal. And we are saying, you can see clearly when there's restriction and the electoral commission can go into a meeting, then when they are being exposed, they rather get the police to protect those who are doing the wrong thing. Evans, you don't need to wait.
I mean, but what you're saying is,
yes,
is conjecture.
People that have been arrested. No,
what you're saying is conjecture.
No, I'm not conjecturing, because
I mean, there's no way you can know for certain what's going to happen on Sunday if the president addresses
people that have been arrested are rather protected by who? By the state. They are supposed to make sure that they are arrested and prosecuted. And you get all these utterances coming. I don't think you want to wait for someone to tell you what they intend to do. We are all in this game. And I can tell you that when the thing escalates, we pray. May God forbid that we don't get there. But we cannot continue to just rely on hope. Like the Secretary John Dramani Mahama said, hope is comfort. We need to voice it out. That's our responsibility as a minority who are in charge of oversight. Because when we joke and this thing escalates, Evans, it is not going to identify NPP, it's not going to identify NDC, it's not going to identify Evans, it's not going to identify Muntaka. All of us will be at risk. Our families, our generations, we may lose very vital persons. I mean, you get government advisor on health tell you that, oh, our death rate is manageable, is 18. You call 18 normal, simply because others are having 200,000. One professor, the rector of the College of Physicians and Surgeons, do you know how vital, how useful that gentleman was to our country? He was training doctors, he was a specialist, the role that he was playing. And we cannot continue to expose our health workers with this risk and trying to play that it is normal. We are not in normal times, and the government needs to focus and make sure that we are out of this world, because when it gets out of hand, believe me, Evans, it's not going to spare you, it's not going to spare me, it's not going to spare any of us.
I'm grateful. That is the Minority Chief Whip. On the telephone line right now is Pius Ajide. He speaks for the government as the Deputy Information Minister. Pius, the accusation that has been leveled today at the President is that he is more interested in his re-election than in the safety and life of Ghanaians, because his influence doesn't seem to be the science, but what he can do to further enhance his chances in elections. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Evan, good evening to you, and let me strongly disabuse the minds of anybody who would think like that. It is not true. I think that the problem of the NDC rather is that they appear too fixated on the elections, and anytime anything is discussed, even COVID-19, they have to look at it within the frame of elections and politics and elections 2020. I think that that limits their understanding, it limits their objectivity, and it's a problem that we will have to maybe assist our colleagues to get out from. Our position is that this is a national crisis and that it must be approached with a national attitude and outlook. We will get to the politics when we have to get to it, but at this point, we have to focus and be galvanized and united as a people. And that's why the president, in constituting the COVID-19 task force that he chairs every evening himself, he went as far as to bring the former Director General of the WHO to coordinate the activities of the task force. That's why when we announced the task force, you will find out that composition is made of persons with the proper scientific expertise, background, and knowledge from the research institution, the epidemiologists, the virologists, and these are the persons who advise the president in the policy options that are adopted. So this is not, our team is not a team of politicians who are masquerading as medical doctors who are operating in a partisan COVID-19 team. No. These are experts in their own right, reputable persons with reputable background and knowledge and expertise in public health and so on, who are guiding His Excellency the President in the policy options. And that's why we are clear that the 5 or 6 strategy objectives which we have set for ourselves, i.e. to limit and stop importation of cases, to detect and contain cases, to slow down community spread, our objective to care for the sick and to limit impact of COVID-19 on our social and economic life, and so on and so forth, are proceeding in the manner in which they are proceeding, to the extent that, even as we speak, Ghana is the country that has tested the most per capita in the whole of Africa. Globally, we are ranging between the first 10 and 15 countries thereabout that have tested.
Well, the minority dispute that claim. They say that is, you're comparing yourself to the land of the blind. They say the one-eyed man is kin, and they say the real facts on the ground doesn't reflect that we are not testing adequately enough, and this is just you tickling yourself and laughing.
Well, Evans, we have never said anywhere that we have tested everybody in this country. But the fact of the matter is that some 137,924 tests have been conducted in this country. And out of that, we are able to identify and therefore isolate 3,091 positive cases. So, yes, and these are figures that are validated by we get the figures from the testing centers, the Noguchis, the KCCR, and so on. So if they are indicting the figures, what they actually are doing is also indicting on those same, the output of those same health professionals that in one breath in their statement, you find them to be commending. And then on the other hand, they are indicting them and condemning the output of their work. I think that we cannot allow the NDC to be approbating and reprobating on this matter. They cannot be talking from the both sides of their mouths. If they feel that the health experts, the professionals, Noguchi, Kolebu, KCCR, veterinary service, if they feel that they are not doing a good job at the testing, let them step forward and say that. But they cannot be claiming that they are doing a good job, and when the result of the good job, according to the NDC, which of course is true, that is being done, is announced, then they turn around to indict the work. I don't see how we can reconcile those two positions. And so, Evans, I think that, you see, the NDC, they make a point that the WHO said on the 30th of what did they say? I just want to find that place quickly. That on the 30th of January, the WHO declared COVID-19 as a global health emergency, and that we should then have taken steps to have closed our borders and so on and so forth. What they fail to add is that the next paragraph from the document that they read, the next paragraph, the WHO also said that there was not enough reasons for measures that would unnecessarily interfere with international travel and trade. So they choose one from that same document, the same paragraph, not another paragraph, the next sentence, which is that there was not enough reason to unnecessarily interfere with international travel and trade. They choose that one. But for the records, Evans, WHO declared COVID-19 a pandemic in March, I believe around the 11th of March 2020. By January, when they declared it a health emergency, they still said that there was not enough reason to begin at that point to close borders and so on and so forth. Yeah,
but the WHO itself has been criticized for being slow to react to this particular pandemic. I mean, across Europe and the US, there is a consensus that they could have done far more, and that those who are following what the WHO was saying are those who lagged behind in terms of dealing with the virus. I'm sure you've seen the criticism.
The whole world lagged behind. It's not just the WHO, even China, America, everywhere. But the crux of what I am suggesting to you, Evans, is that we cannot allow the NDC to nitpick. If they are quoting the WHO, and they have quoted the WHO copiously in one regard, why are they not quoting the other part of the WHO recommendation, which was that we should not at that point unnecessarily interfere with international travel and trade? That's the point I'm making. So they cannot nitpick on if they don't want to go with the recommendations of the WHO, that should be the position. They should be principled. But if they want to be seen to be in tandem and quoting from what the WHO recommendations are, then they must be principled and honest enough to even admit that at that point, according to the WHO itself, it was premature to do the thing that they are now asking that we should have done.
Pius, I'm grateful that you joined me. That's the Deputy Information Minister, Pius Hajide, still ahead on Newsnight. Government warns against complacency as it provides evidence to back claims that COVID-19 cases in the country have peaked and has been on a decline.
This is not saying that Ghana is off the hook yet. Off are not over. The woes are not off. To sustain this and further come down, we need to adhere to all the various preventive etiquettes that have been spelled out quite a number of times here.
Plus, President Akufo-Addo meets his cabinet to assess the impact of the coronavirus on various sectors of the economy. Also, tonight calls for public to avoid stigmatization of COVID-19 patients fall on deaf ears. We'll bring you the story of how the daughter of a recovered COVID-19 patient was pelted with stones.
They stoned my daughter, and even mothers were sitting under their trees watching children to stone their fellow colleagues that she's suffering from COVID-19.
Police in Dabraka here in Accra say they feel threatened and insecure due to coronavirus fears after a mob vandalized and dumped a dead body at the police station.
So I understand they came to attack him, and that police officer had to call for two of his colleagues. So they went to his rescue. In fact, they have actually injured him, carried the dead body, and brought the dead body to the third office to vent their spleen at the policemen.
In business,
receiver for non-bank financial institutions to complete depositors' payments